Hello and welcome to our book club. I'm a little bit late on our book club with this whole situation going around the world. I have been reading, I've been working on different projects, and I finally got through a book that I've been on for quite some time. I got this book last year, in October of last year. Every single year, I go to an event called the Escorial, if I can make it, that's in Spain, hosted by Juan Tamariz, a little conference that they have out there, all on card magic. It's incredible, and one of the guys who goes, I think every year, is Magic Christian, who wrote this book on the top change. Before I get into this book, I just wanted to say a few words about Magic Christian. He is a very dear friend of mine, an amazing magician, amazing historian in magic. He's done so much for the magic community. His work is incredible. The stuff that he's found and been able to share information that we would have really never had. Information that existed but was lost and just hidden, not around. He wrote amazing books on Hofzinser, who is an amazing magician from Vienna, and he's probably the foremost researcher on Hofzinser ever. I think has more access to Hofzinser than anybody else on Earth, at least that I know about. I think it's in the world. And he's written this book on the top change. He calls it the Monarch of Card Sleights. Now, this is a very technical book. And it's very good. You really learn everything you need to learn about the top change. Now, certain people may have different personal philosophies than Magic Christian in terms of their handling. He provides many handlings here. He talks about many of his own handlings, the way that Hofzinser did it, the way that various people throughout time did it. It's not just a catalog of all the different methods. He really tries to refine the best methods that he's found and explain it in a way so that people can use it. It's one of those weird techniques where it's often used but very poorly performed. I see magicians use it all the time, and I use that word deliberately. I see magicians use it all the time. It's a technique that is very psychology based, and it's a very hard technique to do, but many people learn it. It's one of the first techniques that they learn, and it's not. So what people do to cover the move is they abuse, this idea of misdirection, and you see it like I've been all over the world. I've seen hundreds of different magicians use top changes. And there was a time where I was thinking, wow, maybe this is a technique that just sucks, that people can't really do. Because that is the feeling that you get a lot of the times when you see people using this technique. That's the feeling that I had seeing this technique. And eventually you keep going further and further out into the world, and you see, wow, somebody who can do it. And then you see some more people who can do it. And right now I would say I've seen a handful of people who can really use it well as part of their performances, where you don't see it, you don't feel it, it's invisible, it's the way that it's supposed to be, and that is what Magic Christian is trying to capture here. Now, I love the original term for it. I believe it's called I don't know if there's in different languages they have de or la. I don't know if there's a law behind it, but I remember in the Hofzinser book they talked about it as the fill. the fill, which is it's like a French, it's like a Latin word. Anyways, it really makes sense when you look at the history of the word and the translation. But I don't think they talk about it in here. They might, but they definitely talk about it, or they mention it at least in the old Hofzinser book, the translation by Ottokar Fischer. Not Ottokar Fischer, who translated it. I think S.H. Sharp, who translated it. Anyways, that is in that old book. Hofzinser, they called it the fill, which is, if you look it up and you know what I'm talking about, it'll make sense to you. But it's more of a concept of that technique, and it's not just that isolated technique in that exchange, but what Magic Christian tries to do is, I think what Hofzinser was doing with this concept, which goes beyond the idea of the top change, and it could be the bottom change, it could be multiple changes. Magic Christian really gets into those ideas in this book. When you look at the handlings, I would say, personally, I have not seen a lot of these handlings in action. There's photographs in the book, beautiful photographs. I mean, nothing exceptional in terms of the photographs, but, decent. Good photographs, you can see everything. I mean, I've never seen a lot of these moves in real life. I've seen the most common ones in real life. I've seen Magic Christian do them. I've seen other people do them. But this book really expands on that, and they give you multiple different ways of how you can take this technique and really run with it and use it in so many routines just to streamline them. One of the examples that they give in the book is the ace assembly plot, which there's a lot of ways to get into it, but the technique described here is really clean, and I don't know if it's the best technique. I mean, I know a lot of versions of the routine. I have my own ways of doing it, but I think there is something to be said about coming in and coming out and just boom, not messing around, and being able to make that move when you need to make it, and cutting, still having your exposition phase, which at this point could be totally clean. You have your clean exposition phase, and then boom, you make your move, and you're continuing with the exposition without having to work the moves that you need to move into that sequence. This is a very direct method. Sometimes, in some of the examples he gives, I was having a hard time picturing it, to be quite honest, because it's too direct. Some of the examples he gives are when you are switching, one card in a packet at a time, and, like 4 kings are turning into aces, or 4 different cards are turning into kings, something like that, and it's happening one after the other. Now, it is possible. It is possible. I've seen magicians be able to present things and do amazing things. So it is possible. I would be very interested in seeing what people are doing with this work. Now, there are a few guys who I know who are really advanced with this technique, and I would love to hear their thoughts on this and see how they have incorporated it into their work. I'm looking at it for my own work, seeing how I can use it. There's really interesting theoretical applications to the work in this book, where if most of the work dedicated to this technique, the top change takes place with the top card of the deck and another card. But what this book really opens up is a whole system where you could be taking stuff from literally, well, not literally anywhere in the deck, but other places in the deck other than just the top, and also leaving stuff other places in the deck, leaving cards in the middle, leaving them on the bottom, which allows you uh, many different avenues. It really allows you to do subtle stuff, which But that's what this is. This whole book is a system of freeing up that technique, which is quite a beautiful thing, and which I think is necessary for that technique in order to be really used in the real world, which is freeing it up. Because a lot of the times when you see it, it's done in such a restrictive and tight way that it becomes obvious. It's like, it's like any other technique. Uh, let's say some sort of uh, some sort of a deal. Let's say some sort of a false deal, where somebody's dealing the second card of the deck or the bottom card of the deck, and you see them the rest of the time where they're holding the deck, it's so loose that they're just dealing the cards, and it looks like as it should be, and then when it comes time for them to knock out those seconds and bottoms, all of a sudden they're very deliberate about how they're holding the deck. They place the deck in their hand, and then they're dealing, and it's really tight. It's really tight. And that's a lot of what you're seeing with with this technique, the top change today, where it's so, the way people usually do it, unfortunately, is so tight that they're drawing so much attention to it. They really are killing the technique. The technique is not even allowed to live. The technique is killed. It's killed. And it's just, it doesn't. People are feeling it. They're seeing it. I just, it's something that turned me off the technique. And then when I saw that people could actually do this technique, that's when I became interested in it, because I'm like, okay, wow, here's somebody who can do it. And honestly, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This is something that you have to learn from the right teacher. I think Magic Christian is the right teacher. He puts the psychology in this book, the things that you need to know in order to make it work. His rules may not apply to you, but what he writes in here does work from a psychological standpoint. He talks about how you're moving, where your eyes are, where your head is, how your arm is relaxed, how your elbows, where your elbow is, where your wrist is resting, how you're turning your body. Everything that you could possibly need to know is in this book. Now, I know guys who use totally different systems in terms of the way that they move their body and they're turning, and they use their own systems. They have their own way of moving, and that's totally fine if that works for them. If it works and it's well, and it accomplishes what they needed to accomplish, and it's actually done in good form, I applaud that. But for everybody else, if you're getting into this and you want to learn how to do it properly, I would say there's no. Is there no better method? Is there no better book of instruction? Maybe there is. I don't know. I do know when the technique was first described, and you see it in the magic literature, it's often glossed over. And also, there's not a lot of explaining. In a lot of the older books, they just go over the technique and the finger positioning, but there's no psychology behind it, at least none that they explain to you. So in a lot of the magic books, there's these massive discrepancies in between the finger placements, when you're coming in and coming out. And for me, I don't have any fingers, but I'm reading this and I'm looking at the illustrations and the photos, and I'm always thinking, like, why is this being done this way? What Magic Christian does is he really addresses that, and he's like, okay, this is why you need to, use these fingers at this moment, and this is how you cover it. And there's amazing work being done with the thumb here that is overlooked. The thumb is very interesting. It's all in this book. This is a very interesting book. I would say this is, as far as I know, there's no real routines in here. There's ideas for things that you could do with routines, but as far as I know, there's no actual routines in here. But this is a great reference book, and this is a book that I really see myself coming back to over and over again throughout the years. I really see myself coming back to it over and over again, just when I need to, when I'm looking for something for a routine, and just, the idea is so inspiring. The idea that you don't need to only work with the top. In my work, generally, with, actually, it depends, because I have a lot of techniques that are quite diverse. But that's what I like. This book opens you to that diversity of the techniques. And honestly, to be quite honest, this book should not even be called The Top Change. I understand why it's called The Top Change, but it should just be called like The Change, because that's really what it's about. It has a focus on the top change, but there's so much more in this book than the top change. I also want to say this book is published by Hermetic Press, which I believe is Stephen Minch's company. Stephen Minch is a great guy, great magician, friend of mine, and he puts out great books. He's put out a lot of the Juan Tamariz books, always high quality stuff. I don't know if they are still, I guess they must still be active. I see Stephen Minch every now and then. Maybe they have a website. I don't know if they still have a website or what the deal is, or if they're just doing it through distributors. But they also publish a lot of the wonderful books from Juan Tamariz, as well as many other magicians. Honestly, I cannot recommend them highly enough. As a book for Magic Christian, is this the first book you should get if you don't know who Magic Christian is? I don't know. I really don't know. Magic Christian also has amazing books out on Hofzinser, which I would recommend. I have my own way of going through that work. I originally went through the Hofzinser material just through the translations from S.H. Sharp, that edition that he put out that was reprinted by Dover. I think maybe Dover has the rights. I don't know who has the rights on that. And then going to Magic Christian. And the reason is because of the translation. I like that idea where it's not clear and I have to think, I have to imagine. I don't like having all the information. That's one of the beautiful things about the old Magic books. And it kind of like, you see guys like Magic Christian, they've taken it to such a higher level. But I wonder how much of that was because they didn't have the full instructions when they were growing up. A lot of these old Magic books, they don't give you all the details. They just sort of give you the bare bones structure of the routine, of the technique, and you sort of have just you sort of just have to figure out how to make it work. And there's quite I think that's a tradition in Magic, an unspoken tradition, but it is quite beautiful, and that's what I love about books too, and that you don't see it happening, so you have to imagine it. And I think imagination is very powerful for what we do, and it's a tool that we can use. Unfortunately, you don't need to use that tool, or fortunately, you don't need to use that tool so much in this book because he gives you what you need, which is never a bad thing. You get what you need. Definitely check out this book if you are at all interested in the top change, and it will help you. It'll give you ideas. It's a great resource. There's a lot of utility items in here, just ideas. A lot of the routines mentioned here are routines that are bread and butter for a lot of workers. So I think having multiple ins and outs is never a bad thing. Imagine if you could cut your setup time, getting into routine by 30 seconds or 15, 20 seconds. That's what this allows you to do. This is this is a hard move. This is a very good move. But you need to be able to, do it in the right way. But, it's a very direct thing. It's beautiful. That's the beauty in it. Anyways, without getting off too much of on a tangent, check it out. very enjoyable book. Thank you, Magic Christian, for all that you do. We are looking forward to your further books, further research, everything that you do. For those of you who are enjoying this as part of our book club, I started just putting it up on YouTube for this the newest season, season 3. We will eventually have some sort of I got off Patreon without getting into too many details. I got off Patreon, but I want to create I want to move that community to more of a closed system where it's us and it's just managed by me, and I don't need to rely on a third party where any day you can have your page removed and everything gone, years worth of content done. So I've captured everything that I need to capture. I have it, stored in a safe place, and I want to create a home for it. I don't know if it's going to be, it might be on a private forum on Before Magic, I'm not too sure, but I will let you guys know, and we will figure out how to continue these conversations and document them and preserve them. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys have read the book, if you guys do this technique and have some thoughts that you would like to say about it, please let me know. Shoot me a message. My email and everything is available. Private message me, because I don't want to talk about methods. This is right now a public video. This is not going to stay a public video. Right now it's public video. It's going to be not public. So you can safely comment if you want to, because those comments will not stay public for long. So you can do that. I will allow that if you want to do that, or you could private message me. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Check out Magic Christian. Check out Hermetic Press by Stephen Minch, great magic book publisher. And I will see you in the next one, which is going to be sooner rather than later. Thank you, and have a great day.